Kidd Kraddick in the morning.
The Showbiz Top 5.
Hey, this is Kellie Rasberry with your Showbiz Top 5 on the last day of August of 2009. Final Destination was a surprise winner at the box office over the weekend. It took in just over $28 million in ticket sales, which easily beat last week's number one, Brad Pitt's Inglourious Basterds. That one dropped to second, taking in about $20 million in its second week. Third place was Rob Zombie's dark interpretation of Halloween 2 with almost $17.5 million in ticket sales. Fourth place went to District 9. It fell off dramatically to fourth, followed by G.I. Joe, The Rise of the Cobra. Now, maybe Katherine Heigl's not a supreme B after all. She did throw a party for her Grey's Anatomy co-star Ellen Pompeo, a baby shower, at her home on Saturday, so she must not be too difficult to get along with at work if she's doing that for her coworker. And among the 25 guests, other Grey's Anatomy co-stars. Sandra Oh was there, Kate Walsh stopped by, Rebecca Gayheart, who is married to Dr. McSteamy. And Ellen's apparently expecting a baby girl because everything was done up in pink. All the guests were bringing pink-wrapped baby gifts. And before the shower, Ellen did hang out with her fellow BFF pregnant friend, Nicole Richie. Now, Kidd must be heartbroken to know that John Krasinski is off the market. That's, of course, the star of The Office, which Kidd's passionate about. Well, he's been dating sort of under the radar. We knew about it, but they kept out of the limelight Emily Blunt. They hooked up in November of last year, and now they're engaged to be married. He had recently, before that, dated his fellow Office co-star, who's no longer with the show, Rashida Jones, and she had just ended a long-term relationship with that Bublé, Michael Bublé. They were together for 3 years. Went with John Krasinski. 9 months later, they're getting married. Now, John Gosselin hosted a poolside party at the MGM Grand's Wet Republic Pool Nightclub on Saturday night. Reportedly, things didn't go quite so well for him. He was heckled quite a bit by some of the guys that were there who were teasing him about his bald spot and his hair plugs and about his choice of clothing. And there was some woman there holding up a Team Kate sign the whole time. But it didn't faze him too terribly much because he just sat there sipping on champagne, plugging girls' phone numbers into his cell phone while his mother looked on. She must be such a proud mama. And finally, of course, the sad news on Friday. Everyone was shocked to find out DJ AM had passed away. It looks like it was an apparent drug overdose, most likely accidental. Only 36 years old. Pieces are still being put together. They're tracking down his last communication so they can estimate a time of death, I guess. But apparently what happened was he had a standing gig every Friday night at the Rain nightclub inside the Palms Casino in Las Vegas. And he texted two friends about 1 o'clock Friday morning about that gig. And the next day he was supposed to meet two friends at the airport. Never showed up, and wouldn't answer his phone call. So somebody called 911. Police went to DJ M's apartment in Soho. They broke down the door, and that's when they went in and found him in the bedroom, face down, with the crack pipe nearby, with some crack cocaine and 2 prescription bottles. Now, he had been sober, some say anywhere from 9 to 11 years. According to DJ M himself, it was over 11 years. Some say it was a little bit less than that. But that he had been devastated over a recent breakup with this model named Haley Wood, that it really knocked him for a loop. He did not want the relationship to end. And plus, he was still dealing with the trauma of being in that plane crash a year ago that almost took his life. And now it's finally, I guess it just all caught up with him, and he's dead at the age of 36. It'll be weeks before the toxicology reports come back with a definite conclusion as to what killed him, though. And that's your Showbiz Top 5 for Monday.